This is one of the major problems out there, isn't it, at the moment, Jay, where a lot of us don't actually spend any time with ourselves. You know, you mentioned your morning routine and how you take a bit of time to prime yourself for the day, to set your intention, to at least control that first thought. Whereas for many people, their experience of life is that there is no routine. They jump straight into emails or conflict or problems. And so the way they're showing up in that relationship, there's never been any sort of intentional time to sort of think about how you're going to show up. You just show up and you think, oh, my relationship's not working. Maybe it isn't working. Or maybe you haven't taken the time to do something to, enable it to work, or at least enable it to function a little bit better. The other thought that came up for me, Jay, is that a lot of people, and I've got friends like this, who jump from relationship to relationship. When one relationship ends, and I'm talking about a love relationship here, they can't be alone. They don't want to be alone. And so they look to fill that hole straight away. And I think this is something you write about as well in the book, about if you are at the end of a relationship or there's been a breakup, don't rush in. Take time to kind of observe, see what happened, reflect, heal. You talk about emotional injuries and physical injuries. It's really beautiful. Maybe you could speak to some of those concepts a little bit.
Yeah, Rangan, I love the point you just made right now about the idea that so many of the challenges we have in relationships are potentially challenges we actually have within ourselves. I think if everyone who's listening or watching could just reflect for a second, and it might just be in reflecting on the last 24 hours, when you say something to your partner that you later regret, how many of you, in all honesty, and I'll raise my hand too, how many of you said something because of your own insecurity or your own trigger? How many of us say something we don't mean because of some lack of meaning within ourselves? How many of us say things that hurt someone else because of some hurt we're going through that day? How many of us reflect our stress onto our partner? Now, you're not, and this is where we go wrong, Rangan. I'm going to give a personal example of how I went through this. I live a high performance, productive, efficient, purposeful life. I have for quite a few years now. What that means is I am constantly dealing with also high levels of stress and monitoring and managing them in high doses. What that also means is that if uncontrolled or if not communicated effectively, there are times when I can be snappier and more irritated at my wife because she's the person that I'm around all the time. And what I started to realize, Rangan, was I was becoming someone I didn't want to be, because when it came to the person I love most in this world, who's my wife, I was being irritable, I was being snappy, I was releasing my stress, not in a angry, loud, shouty way. That's not who I am. But even if it was passive aggressive, it could be silent or subtle, but it was still not healthy. And I started to look at that and I think, wait a minute, if I'm trying to be a good person, if I believe I'm a good person, why am I acting in ways that are not aligned with myself? And I think everyone can relate to that. When you've had the stress of your day, or your boss is giving you a hard time, or the kids haven't been well behaved today, or whatever it may be, and now you and your partner are the ones sharing all that stress. And I started to realize a couple of things. The first thing was managing stress was as important as managing my relationship. And that's the point you've just raised. You think the challenges in your relationship, chances are the challenges in how you manage stress. When I've meditated effectively, when I've rested and slept my 8 hours, 7 to 9 hours a day, when I've set my intention, I am less likely to be bothered by the levels of stress. And the second point that I understood was that I'm not going to be able to perfectly manage stress all the time, because I'm not perfect, I'm human, but I can communicate that to my wife ahead of time. So I'll give an example. I'm traveling for the next couple of weeks, or I'm getting ready to travel, and I'm not with my wife right now. She's in London because she has some family, someone's not well in her family. And if we were together, what I'd be saying to my wife is, hey, I just want you to know the next couple of weeks are going to be stressful for me. So if you find me kind of frantically running around or hectic, just know that I'm going to be experiencing a bit of stress. If you want my undivided attention, just let me know and I'll be there for you. But I just want to preempt the fact that I'm going to be slightly more stressed out next week. So if I'm not as present, if I'm not the same as I usually am, just don't take it personally. It's not about you, it's me. And I think saying that and communicating that ahead of the time just saves the other person from having so many other feelings about what's going on. And then you can actually deal with it better.